Welcome to Module 2, Lesson 1, Effective Communication. Communication plays a coordinating and integrating role in the management of the affairs of any organization, whether it is in the functions of planning, organizing, staffing, or leading. Effective communication in an organization increases productivity, decreases turnover, and improves office atmosphere. Not everyone, however, comes from strong communication backgrounds, so it is important to make certain everyone representing the organization has effective communication skills. This lesson will provide examples and suggestions for delivering effective communication. There are 3 objectives for this lesson. First, you will be able to determine appropriate methods to communicate both verbally and in writing. Second, you will be able to identify strategies for effective verbal communication. Third, you will be able to identify strategies for effective listening. To communicate in a consistent and effective manner, the methods used to reach people can take many forms. Before you develop your message, it is important to engage in audience analysis, or the process of assessing the audience to make sure the information provided to them is at the appropriate level and utilizes the best methods. Good communication skills, including sending and receiving messages, are the basis of how we build trusting relationships and can make certain what we say and hear is understood correctly. As an extension professional or volunteer, the more clearly we send or communicate our message, the easier it is for people to make sound decisions. Effective communication does not happen accidentally. It requires time and resource investment and is a well-crafted and coordinated process. Communication is at the heart of everything that we do, and it starts with you as a volunteer. No matter what the method of communication that is being used, there are some fundamental skills or suggestions that may help us make our messages clear, or help us hear a message accurately. Are these people actively listening to the speaker? One of the most important skills in communication is learning how to listen. Listening is hard work. As a volunteer, you will want to employ active listening, which is a more structured form of listening. The key to active listening is being focused and attentive to the speaker. This means using your whole body to listen, facing the speaker, maintaining eye contact, and avoiding interruptions. Acknowledge the thoughts and ideas of the speaker. This can be done by simply nodding or saying yes, or another affirmation. Paraphrase or repeat in your own words what the speaker is saying when appropriate. Be careful if you paraphrase not to add your own ideas and thoughts. Simply reword what the speaker said. It is also important, if you do not understand what a speaker is saying, to ask him or her for an explanation. You might want to ask open-ended questions as well. Good words to use in this type of questioning are how, please explain, or could you please describe that. Next, you might want to summarize or clarify what the speaker has said. This gives the speaker the opportunity to know if you have heard the information correctly. The final component of active listening is contributing your opinion. Relaying your opinion is not always appropriate or may not be desired. Be cautious and understand the impact that your opinion may have during a conversation. Thus, offer your opinion when appropriate. Using appropriate eye contact is another basic communication skill that is very important. Eye contact is important when you are speaking and being spoken to, both in one-on-one situations and in groups. Maintaining eye contact is a skill and one that takes practice. A final basic communication strategy is to train your mind to focus. Keep your attention focused when you are speaking or listening. Active listening can help with this focus. Removing distractions can also help. Turn off music, silence your phone, and keep focused. There are many ways we communicate without words. Eye contact, facial expressions, personal space, how we move our bodies, and our posture. I am sure you can name others. Our nonverbal language tells an audience a lot. Typically, if our verbal language says one thing and our nonverbal language says another, people believe the nonverbal. Be careful to always send positive, nonverbal cues. We communicate in various ways. This can include verbal communication, such as phone calls, face-to-face communication, presentations, or group meetings. This can be as part of a group when someone else is presenting or leading, and your main responsibility is to listen and understand. This can also include written communication through methods such as emails, letters, newsletters, and news articles. Although this list is broad, the information provided by Extension volunteers needs to originate from research-based, non-biased sources. With all methods of communication, we need to keep this mission in mind. When communicating verbally, always allow others to finish their thoughts. Be sure to show that you respect others' thoughts, feelings, and opinions by letting them finish what they are saying. Do not assume you know what the other person is going to say. Another communication strategy is to speak or write simply, so your audience can understand. We have probably all been in a situation where we were listening to someone and at the end had no idea what they actually said. Usually, when you are a speaker or a writer, you know a reasonable amount regarding the subject at hand. Avoid assuming that your audience is knowledgeable regarding certain information. Keep your point simple and direct, and when appropriate, use examples to showcase your message. What are these phone call images conveying? Phone calls are another important communication tool. Think about phone calls you have made to try to get information from someone. You definitely form an opinion about someone or some place from a phone call. A phone call has an advantage over email in that you can hear the tone of voice. Keep the following tips in mind on phone calls. Be polite, listen, and allow speakers to finish their thoughts. The upcoming slides will discuss further suggestions for communicating with others, specifically over the phone. Speak clearly and use a pleasant tone of voice. Try talking with a smile on your face. It really does improve your tone. This is not just true over the phone, but also in face-to-face conversations. Always identify yourself. People need to know to whom they are talking. If you need to put someone on hold, be polite and ask the caller if this action is acceptable. Make sure that you are considerate of your caller's time, as long wait times can make a caller feel unimportant and hinder building rapport. Always return calls as promised. As with all conversations, try not to interrupt the conversation of your caller. Sometimes this is a difficult task on the phone because someone pausing is often confused with stopping. However, if you are really listening, you should know if the speaker has finished his or her thoughts. Avoid answering the phone if you are eating or chewing gum. This can be very distracting and can prevent effective communication with your caller. Before beginning a phone conversation, be sure that you have time so that the call is not rushed. Listen attentively to the caller to be able to understand his or her questions, requests, and concerns. During the conversation, avoid shuffling through papers, typing on the computer, or making other noises. Also have a message prepared when you call someone in case you are connected to their voicemail. This prepares you for what to say during your message. If leaving a callback number on a voicemail, speak slowly and repeat the number before disconnecting. Another activity where an extension volunteer may be asked to speak is at a presentation. It is well known that some people are very fearful of public speaking. As a volunteer, before delivering your message, it is important to practice. There are several methods to practice your materials. For example, you can practice in front of a mirror, a mock audience, or using a video camera. Contact a local organization such as Toastmasters that can also assist you to gain key public speaking skills and to remove the fear out of the experience. Here are a few suggestions to keep in mind when you are doing a presentation. First, grab the attention of the audience. This can be done by telling a story, a joke, if relevant and tasteful. Jokes are not for everyone. Or something to get them interested. Have an introduction and a summary or conclusion, not just a bunch of facts for your presentation. A presentation needs to be organized and have a direction, so the audience can follow it easily. Maintain appropriate eye contact. This means looking at the audience, but be careful not to stare at one person. Use examples and visual aids when possible. If done correctly, these tools help the audience remember. Plus, it adds interest to the presentation. Use short sentences. People can get lost when the sentences are too long. Use a pleasant voice, speak slowly and clearly. Utilize a microphone if one is available, or speak loud enough to be heard. Confirm with the audience that you are being heard clearly. When conducting presentations, it is important to be aware of your audience's engagement with your message. Read your audience for cues. Craft an engaging presentation to limit boredom or confusion. Avoid filler words such as and as they are distracting to the flow of your message. A little silence is acceptable. Good public speakers are prepared and equipped to use a variety of approaches to gain the audience's attention and to be able to reach a wide variety of people. A variety of approaches also helps when you may lose your audience. Even with sturdy practice, you may need to regroup and try another approach to deliver your message to be able to meet the needs of your audience. Show your personality and try not to read. This is hard, particularly if you get nervous, so practice, practice, practice. When you are presenting, pretend you are talking to a friend. Plus, remember you know the subject, so you'll be fine. It is important to involve your audience whenever possible. This could be in the form of asking questions, including an activity, or having some sort of discussion. If something goes astray during your presentation, be sure to handle issues with poise and grace. People almost always remember how you handle a rough situation. Consider light comedy or a quote that is fitting for the error. Lastly, do not think as the presenter that you have to have all of the answers. You just have to be willing to help people find the answers. Many of the strategies already mentioned are important in writing. Keep your message simple and polite, while staying focused on the subject. Here are some other ideas for written communication. Remember, the reader is unable to detect your tone, so limit sarcasm, jokes, or distracting materials. Also, do not assume that your audience will read materials with the same mood as you may have intended while writing. Keep messages and sentences simple. Complex words and wordy sentences often get in the way of the message. Finally, avoid jargon or abbreviations. Your message can be lost in its entirety if people do not understand the key points. Take a few minutes and review this example of writing simply. These two sentences say basically the same message. Which do you think is easiest to understand? Version A, volunteer as a family. Show your children how important it is to help others. Or version B, undertake community activities with your children and family members. Demonstrate to them the significance of assisting others. Not only is A easier to read and write, it also is more likely to be remembered. As a volunteer, when creating written materials, it is so important to always consider the recipient's ability to see and read the lettering of handwritten and some computer fonts. Here are 3 writing tips to keep in mind. 1. Type rather than handwrite. If handwritten, be sure to print clearly and legibly. And use basic font styles, such as Times New Roman, and always use at least a 12-point font. Use your background knowledge about written communication to review an example email from an Extension volunteer. On the following slides, consider, what would you change about Darlene's communication? This is an example of an email that a volunteer developed to cancel a program scheduled for Saturday. Do you see anything that needs to be changed? The next slide will identify some key areas to change for more effective communication. Darlene's approach to cancel the program through this email was not effective. First, it is best to fully detail email recipients' names and email addresses when sending professional emails. If using a listserv, choose names wisely, making sure to name them effectively. Next, use both upper and lowercase letters to communicate your message. You can see from this example by using all uppercase letters, one may infer that the writer is yelling or angry. Avoid jargon or abbreviations. BBFN or bye-bye for now is not an appropriate closing. It is even more inappropriate when used as an abbreviation. Good manners are important, particularly when you are writing. In this case, bad manners are used, and the receiver only sees the written words and not the tone with which it was written, so it is important to write with a positive feeling. In your opinion, should anything else be changed in this written communication? This message is very brief and should include more detailed, comprehensive information. For example, the title and logistical information regarding the specific program should be listed. What if there are a multitude of programs scheduled for this weekend? More information should be incorporated, including how people were to sign up, purpose of this program, and alternatives or suggestions for rescheduling, changing the focus, or how to deliver this program through other methods. Finally, always proofread and utilize spell check. Grammar and spelling errors can be very distracting. Additionally, if this message had been proofread, hopefully the writer would have noticed poor tone and unprofessional language. In written communication, use descriptive words instead of vague words to help your audience to visualize the message. For example, instead of a lot of people, say 10 or 15 people. Use active voice instead of more passive language, so the subject is doing the action. For example, use Family and Consumer Science's proposed new regulations as active language, and not new regulations were proposed, which represents more passive language. Active language is a direct form of communication and uses less words to relay a message. It also eliminates ambiguity about responsibilities and clearly identifies who is responsible for certain actions. Last, always use a professional yet friendly conversational tone that is inviting to your audience. In all communication, avoid overly long sentences. Be careful to be gender neutral whenever possible. and try to write with a positive tone. If you are copying and pasting from other documents, check to make sure that the content is relevant. And finally, always proofread. If you are expected to develop or update written materials such as websites, letters, brochures, and announcements, make sure that the materials are designed in a professional manner. To maximize effectiveness, seek guidance and reviewers to assist in developing eye-catching and motivating documents. In review, there are 3 ways in which we communicate with others: written, verbal through both speaking and listening, and nonverbally. With all communication in family and consumer sciences, we are trying to build strong relationships and educate individuals so they can make sound decisions about their lives.